Ti se namestiti sguardo.
Hi friends, I'm going to try and talk a little louder, so at least, you know, I mean, we also, this workshop is meant to be about interaction, any question. We are going to try to answer any question, but for start, let's see, you know, how good we are in perceiving information. So what I'm going to do, like a little game to start with, I'm going to actually say something, and let's see, you know, along the line, as the message goes from one to another, what we are going to get from the other end. Just to sort of see how our lines, communication lines, are they open?
Just close it.
No, I'm starting from there. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
We did this with the community center with the kids.
Yes.
Like many times, and it's always interesting.
Yes. Yes. Just to sort of see, you know, like what is our communication line. Also about permaculture thing. Sometimes people go to the course and then they tell about it to the friend, and friend say to the friend, and then we kind of the information dilute. So obviously I would love all of you guys to attend permaculture course in order to gain knowledge about permaculture. Okay, so I'm starting with the whisper.
Okay, it's not a whisper, it's nothing.
Yes. So maybe it has something funny. Andre, pass it over. It's an English language barrier. Pass it over.
Okay, so.
Speak out loud.
We're eating something, but I shall not what.
Say again.
We are eating something, but I shall not what.
Hey, okay, the original. Okay, original message was together we have everything in abundance.
What?
That was the original message. Okay. It's just sort of like it's a bit of
Is that really?
okay.
It was strange that we did it with the drawing.
Yes.
Everybody, first one is looking at the picture, and then the last one is drawing.
Okay.
You can't imagine what is
Completely yes.
Don't you believe me?
Oh yes, we are, and everybody else. Okay. Okay. This is introduction course to the permaculture, originally based on a document by Spiralseed that is presented and published by Graham Burnett. Plenty of material online on this keyword. Also, he's a permaculture teacher. I'm using this opportunity really to just express gratitude to Pirot Publica for organizing event like this. Permaculture is important from my point of view. Hopefully we are going to sort of share this knowledge. So let's start. I'm going to start with a little definition by Bill Mollison. Bill Mollison is the original, we call him father of permaculture. He's an Australian guy, started 30-something years ago in Australia. Originally it was cutting woods and it was really sort of a rough type guy. And something happened to him by cutting wood, you know, he had an emotional experience and he decided that never ever going to cut any tree, only apart from if he's building his own house. Then he turned to education, he finished 2 universities, and Bill Moll himself and David Holmgreen start working on aspects of permaculture, and they coined the word permaculture. Permaculture, in easiest terms, stands for permanent agriculture, but then also it developed into a wide field that includes just about everything else that is sustainable. So permaculture offers radical approach to food production and urban renewal, water, energy and pollution. It integrates ecology, landscape, architecture, organic gardening, agroforestry, and it creates rich and sustainable living. It uses appropriate technology, giving high yields for the low energy inputs, achieving a resource of the great diversity and stability. Also, design principles that permaculture is dealing with are equally applicable to urban environments, cities, as well as rural environments, like even like environment that we are now. And that's a statement by Bill Mollison. My personal, in fact, there is no established definition of what permaculture is. It seems to be, and that's very interesting because it's not dogma. Dogma is when you get punished if you do mistake. Permaculture is not like this. A mistake is allowed as long as we learn from mistakes. So bear in mind that it's not religion, it's not ideology, you have aspect of philosophy, but at the end of the day it's very applicable science. It's based on a scientific aspects and includes science of the earth, science of the soil, science of the water, air, and it's just overall holistic science. To start with, let's say what the problem is. You all know that and it become like a cliche saying that we are on the brink of ecological disaster. People are talking about peak of oil and potential problems that at some point in time we are going to run out of oil. Mind you, I'm not really projecting that negative aspect of our reality. But let's look what appears to be the problem. The current economy is seen to waste a lot of energy. So if we analyze inputs and if we see what are the outputs, it becomes obvious that there is a massive waste of energy. For example, I have a little document here, maybe two, right? This is about the industrial egg, right? All these systems, yes, all these systems are actually included in order that we get one egg. This is the farm egg. If you look into it and think what is needed, you know, for the chicken factory, then is electricity, energy grid. There is need for oil. There is need for food, you know, for the chicken. That is like a fish, concentrated food for chicken made from fish. And there is infrastructure, logistic. Also includes the industrial farming. And putting all this together, including the local logistic for driving all that materials, you know, to the factory to make the pellets for the chicken food. Effectively, that egg spends 10 times more energy than egg itself. So the waste of energy is 10 times greater than the energy that industrial egg contains.
Goodbye, teacher.
Ciao. On the other side, there is more natural way of producing food, and this is the farm egg, and it's very simple sort of way of producing food. It's very traditional. It sort of touches the root of the human existence, you know, as far as we go in the past and think, you know, how people used to live 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and what were the communities back then. Now we are sort of looking in the same sort of model in order to find that sustainable way of living. So this is like a much sort of simpler way of production. The chicken is eating food that is around. All kinds of berries and finding worms in the soil, here and there, running around, being free and happy. And the energy also could be alternative energy generated from a wind farm, for example, or sort of water mill running, generating energy from dynamo and so on. So I'm going to pass that now here. This is similar example here. This is industrial cup of tea, they call it. I did not invent it. It's already in a manual. I just kind of copied a little bit about it. So if you look at a cup of tea, a tea bag, and here we go. This is the cup of tea, and this is the man. And the input, when we look what's needed, is needed oil in order to sort of and industrial agriculture in order to grow that plant. Also we see that for the packing, also other industries needed, you know, for the packing, you know, to produce that sort of paper that is used in a tea bag. So also cutting the trees and forestry. For that cup of tea we need the water that is also heated by the means of electrical energy that is produced from oil, gas, coal, nuclear. This is causing the problems. Nuclear waste, agri-chemicals, oil spillage, greenhouse gases, deforestation, vehicle emissions. And at the end of the day, once we analyze those inputs and we have a cup of tea, now we look what are the outputs. And we see that the box and plastic wrapping goes into the bin liner, black bag, and it ends up on a landfill, like a waste. And it's not going to decompose for the next 400 years, because that's the cycle of breaking down the plastics. We also analyze output from human, here in particular urine, that it goes into sewage works, and it gets dispersed in the river. So the waste of energy is absolute, and this is only a cup of tea. When we look into that sort of scheme on a wider scale, then you can only sort of starting to get a picture what is the sort of overall on a wastage on a local level, on the level of the bigger community, let's say the council, the sort of local region, on the level of the country, and on the global level. For how far we are going to go with the waste, it remains to be seen. On the other side, there is a great initiative and a change of consciousness in order to be able to kind of adopt different approach, to be a little bit more aware about the waste, to be a little bit more careful what we do, and that decision is with us. We are the ones who are making those choices. So let's say about permaculture cup of tea. Here we go, permaculture cup of tea, and we have a plant there. This is a tea plant in the middle, and our cup of tea. Everything goes back to the soil. If the water is collected, rainwater is collected, it goes into the water. If the electricity is generated by alternative means, if it's heated, I mean by electricity that we generated by alternative means, also if the urine is used as a composting element that actually goes back into the soil, if we allow for the tea plant to complete the cycle, so we get the seeds from the same plant and plant it the next year, we find that everything actually goes back in a circle, that energy is harvested from the sun, that energy is harvested from the natural elements, wind, that soil plays a big part, and the soil gets richer and richer and richer. Eco-crisis is largely a consequence of the way that we in the West consume. Permaculture is about recognizing this and taking responsibility for our actions and for our planet, and turning around our behaviors of consumption and exploitation so that we can recreate the world without destruction and pollution. Obviously, on the long run, change is going to happen. It's not something that it will happen over the night. Nevertheless, by getting a little bit more active, becoming more aware about the problem and solution, hopefully over the long run we are going to make this transformation. Permaculture is based on ethics and principles. It's a very simple setup. I'm going to turn the page now. Here we go. So here we have the three ethics of permaculture, and it's about earth care, caring about the earth. But when we say earth, it's not just the earth, it's the whole ecosystem. It's about caring about people, so it's very people friendly, it's based around community, and it's about the fair share. Fair share genuinely stands in a small community like this, that whoever gets involved, whoever contributes in one way or another, you have the place on the table. So if we, let's say that we have hundreds of fruit trees and all kinds of things, you know, in this field, for example, and we're all doing like together group, and then everybody would have a sort of part in it, as well as contributing towards the group work. In the same time, it will have a place that we sort of sit all and eat together and share everything there is. Now I'm going to refer to the manual and basically continue that permaculture is a broad-based and holistic approach. Holistic means that is about looking at the bigger picture, looking at the whole rather than into separate elements. We also find that in a classical education system scientific community and academic community specialize in particular aspects of biology, ecology, and so on. And there is a great number of academics and scientists that study one particular kind, you know. They are kind of narrowly focused into one particular field. Nevertheless, permaculture would like to attract a community and people and overbridge the sort of differences in a way of looking into the bigger picture. And this is the great potential, obviously. I'm sure some of you guys have some experience, and you genuinely share that love for nature. Otherwise, it's my belief that you wouldn't be here in this group. Also, in the heart of permaculture is a sustainable design. In fact, I got my own little line on permaculture in terms of defining it. I tend to say that the permaculture is methodology of learning natural design or learning design from nature. If you look in unspoiled nature, if you look, let's say, in the woodlands, and if we scratch the surface, we are going to see a thick deposit of leaves and all these biomass that is accumulating in a woodland floor. This is the natural cycle, and within that thick layer we find that there is lots of energy that it has been stored, and we also find that biomass is breaking down, and all kinds of organisms are actually facilitating that process, from microorganisms to mycelium, mushrooms for example. They are breaking down biomass, as well as a sort of higher organism like worms and all kinds of little bugs, and all of them are actually in that part of recycling the energy, breaking biomass, in the same time producing great fertility and building the topsoil. One of the biggest problems today is that we are losing the topsoil. For example, not long ago we had a storm here in this region, and a great wind, and also flooding, recent flooding in Serbia, and in a natural disaster like this, we see that topsoil is washed away. So, looking at the other side, how nature regenerates itself through permaculture and designing within permaculture, we would like to, by looking at the nature and mimicking the natural process, we would like to reverse that process, and to be able to actually build a topsoil that is more fertile and that would support everything that is edible. There is a system of building a food forest. Did anyone of you heard of food forest? Forest food forest, right? Okay.
If you want to, we can play also these days a video about making.
Yes, we have a fast-track permaculture issued by Regenerative Leadership based in US. It's a great video. It lasts around. You have a 3 parts, and I genuinely recommend that you see that video. I mean, it's probably better sort of education, more precise, by qualified teacher, permaculture teacher. Although I'm permaculture designer, I'm not yet qualified to become teacher, so it will take a little while, you know, until I sort of build the confidence to do that. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the ethics of permaculture.
Sorry, what about a food forest?
The food forest is the, obviously, because permaculture is copying the natural environment, it's a system of approaching the landscape that is bare as it is, in a way of planting fruit trees and planting shrubs and bushes and planting all different varieties of edible plants that and allowing the nature to do the job, let's say in a simple terms. Allow the nature to complete its cycle of the season, cycle of the from seed to the fruit, you know, and back into the seed. Obviously, later on when we get into further into introduction of permaculture, we are going to go into stacking, and I'm going to talk about 7 layers in nature, from the rooted vegetables to the tree. And this is something that is recognized, that in nature there is 7 layers. Also, permaculture is using that knowledge and is building environment based on that knowledge, so it's possible to actually grow more food in a less space and in a way that it requires less work. But we are going to touch that a little bit later on. At the heart of permaculture is sustainable design and the practice, but obviously the core values or ethics remain constant. Whenever we are dealing with a small piece of land, 3 by 3, little bit sort of patch of garden, or we are dealing with a huge land, hectares of land, the principle is the same. The same ethics apply. This is important. The biomass is breaking down, and the microorganism and all this life is also happening on a couple of square meters as well on a bigger scale. So because of that, the same ethics apply. Obviously, permaculture is about designing the landscape that is usable to community and friendly to community, and also permaculture is using natural patterns that already exist in nature in order to facilitate that process of design. So if you look around in nature, I challenge you to find a straight line. Is there anywhere a square box or cube or some geometrical shape? We actually finding that it's all about the curve and is about sort of natural shapes, and they are kind of divided in a simple terms. We can see spirals, and anybody of you familiar with Fibonacci mathematics progression? And we find that spiral, there's one cup floating around, the blue one, the little Fibonacci sort of snail, you know, exactly like this, you know, it goes like that. But also, when we, in design, when we are using, we can build a sort of herb spirals. Now it's interesting, the spiral itself, when it's placed on the soil in relation to the south, you will find that one part of the spiral will have a lot of sun, and all the herbs that likes sun, they're going to thrive there. And the part that is towards the north, oh, that's a cup. Okay, here we go. Right. It's one of the patterns, but it's also recognized, just happened to be there, it's also recognized pattern in nature. It's about